All right, so we're waiting for Blake. We're going to start in 3 minutes without.
Hey, there we go. All right.
We have official full quorum.
Wow.
Look at all the faces on this screen.
Is there a button to hit when we want to talk?
Yeah.
Right, just so you know, Blake waits for about 20 minutes before his connection drops. So
Hey everybody, welcome back to another great episode of Bourbon Pursuit. And if this is your first time joining us, have you hit that subscribe button yet? You can go to iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, whatever it is, hit the subscribe button, make sure you get every new episode. But if you're more of a video person, make sure you go to YouTube, Facebook, hit the subscribe button there, or I guess the like button too, and you can get all the new episodes coming straight to your device every single week. Now, we talked about it last week, and we're going to continue to keep talking about it until the week approaches. But Bourbon and Beyond, this is something that is very top of mind for us. And that's only because, A, we're going to be there. Every big name in bourbon's going to be there, including the people that are on the roundtable tonight. But we're also giving you the chance to be there too. So make sure that if you are a Patreon subscriber, we're giving away 2 pairs of tickets through Patreon. And if you're not a Patreon subscriber, we're giving away 2 pairs of tickets on Facebook as well. So make sure you go to one of those 2 avenues. And not only that, if you're on Patreon, guess what? You get to double dip. So go get your name in the hat everywhere. And we're giving away tickets, 3 pairs of GA tickets for all this. And then 1 pair on Facebook of a Mint VIP weekend experience. It's valued at $1,000, access to your own private bathrooms, air-conditioned areas, VIP viewing stages. This is going to be one hell of a package, so make sure you go and get yourself entered. And tickets are running low. If you go to bourbonandbeyond.com and try to look for tickets, you're going to see that you're going to be in the minority of being able to get early access or anything like that for discounts, because they are going to get sold out relatively quickly as this weekend approaches. So make sure you go get entered. Now, today's episode is a fun one. A, because it's Bourbon Community Roundtable. We have a lot of great people. B, this is the first time that Fred Minnick has joined us on the Community Roundtable, so there's a lot of knowledge bombs that are going to be dropped. C, we had full quorum. We had literally everybody on. So you're going to have the whole team on, plus the extended Bourbon Community Roundtable that are joining in this one. So there's a lot of good knowledge. We talk about MGP, about a lot of the distilleries that are sourcing. When is the right time to start shifting and start introducing your own juice or mixing your own juice or selling your own juice? Because we'll take some examples of what have happened recently. And then the second half of the podcast is really looking at a lot of stuff of Heaven Hill. We have all had the opportunity to try the Heaven Hill releases that are going to be coming out for the fall, Parker's Heritage, the new Old Fitz, as well as the 27-year, and we kind of give our opinions on them. And then lastly, we get into Brian's favorite subject of laws. And we talk about Heaven Hill suing Bob Dylan, right? So it's going to be, we've got a lot of great topics. So you're going to really enjoy this episode. And if you are a fan of private barrel picks, this is something that we talk about all the time on the show about being the new unicorns. And we've announced even more barrel picks that are coming through Patreon. This puts us at almost 12, maybe 13 barrels for 2018, if my count is correct. And it's only August. So head on over to patreon.com where you can get, not only help us support the podcast, but you can get access to these. Not only get the chance to join us on the barrel pick, but you can also buy bottles from these barrel picks. So patreon.com/Bourbon Pursuit. Your support goes a long way. Plus, hell, you get a lot of cool stuff in return, and even access to barrels are pretty awesome. Another thing for Patreon supporters, that if we are getting ready, we are at a 2-week countdown to the end of the month, and that means we have got another $5 giveaway, a bunch of new swag. So $5 more per month, you get entered into a monthly giveaway, and we'll see who wins this month. But with that, make sure that if you want all the show notes beamed straight to your inbox every Thursday morning, go to bourbonpursuit.com, sign up for our email list. And if you want to see what we're drinking on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, whatever it is, go and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, whatever your favorite social media platform is. We're usually posting somewhere all the time. but Instagram is starting to blow up. Amazed by people loving to scroll down and like stuff, and I'm finding myself too doing it all the time. But with that, enjoy this week's episode, and here's Fred Minnick with Above the Char.
I'm Fred Minnick, and this is Above the Char. After I put my son to bed, I craved the rich, caramel-laden taste of Weller. You know how it is. You get in the mood for something and nothing else will satisfy. I walked toward my bourbon shelf and saw a Weller Antique 107, pulled it, poured it dry, and took a sip. And then I noticed the label. Oh no. This is the last of that bottle, I thought. On the backside was the sticker, Sergeant Ryan Jopek Memorial Scholarship. If that name sounds familiar, President Obama remembered Ryan several years ago during one of his speeches and wore a bracelet in his memory. I am also very close with his father, Brian, who's the godfather to my son Oscar and was my Iraq War battle buddy. When we returned home from Iraq, Ryan was shipped to the Middle East. He would later be killed on my birthday in 2006. And I've watched my best friend deal with the pain of losing his oldest child. It's not been easy for any of us. Nothing will ever bring Ryan back, but the bourbon community remembers Ryan through its support for the Jopek family. Every year, the charity group Bourbon Brigante selects a barrel in Ryan's honor. The proceeds go toward the Ryan Jopek Memorial Scholarship, which is given to a Wisconsin resident who illustrates the same passions as Ryan demonstrated. Well, I take that back. We couldn't put chasing young women on the application, but you get the point. The bourbon honors the young man and preserves his memory. As I sipped the last of the bottle, I remembered Ryan's brilliant smile, his ridiculous loyalty to the Chicago Bears, and was saddened I never shared a dram with the young man. But then it dawned on me. As I felt sorrow overtaking my emotions, I realized that the bourbon community is all about uplifting spirits. In the past year, I've seen the bourbon community, both distillers and consumers, raise millions, that's right, millions of dollars for charities. This is who we are. Bourbon people are a community of big hearts. As the final drops of Weller warmed my belly, I asked myself, what can I do to help somebody? I believe that's a message Sergeant Ryan Jopek would have supported. And that's this week's Above the Char. Do you have an idea for a segment? Hit me up on Twitter, @FredMinnick. That's @FredMinnick, MINNICK. Until next week, cheers.
Always find what you love at Total Wine & More. With so many great bottles to choose from at the lowest price, it's easy to find your favorite Cabernet or a new single-barrel bourbon to try with some help from one of their friendly guides. And with every bottle comes the confidence of knowing you just found something amazing. With the lowest prices for over 30 years, find what you love and love what you find only at Total Wine & More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly and be 21. From their bar to yours, Chad and Sarah of the popular YouTube channel It's Bourbon Night bring you their favorite at-home old-fashioned mix with the new Elemental Elixir's Golden Hour Syrup. It's a custom-made syrup with notes of bold black tea, warm spices, and orange zest. All you need is your favorite whiskey and ice. No bitters needed. One bottle makes 16 drinks, so that's only $1 a cocktail before you add your own whiskey. They can also be enjoyed in other cocktails or spirits, mocktails, coffee, tea, and anything you can think of. It's crafted locally in Lexington, Kentucky, and you can get your bottle now at whiskeyambitions.com. Do you ever pour yourself a bourbon, swirl it around, and then start struggling to come up with tasting notes? And perhaps you're also looking for a good Father's Day gift idea. Well, you can now solve both with a kit from Knows Your Bourbon. And unlike other nosing kits on the market, Knows Your Bourbon kits feature real ingredients for the most authentic aromas. You can smell real Tahitian vanilla bean instead of some synthetic aroma that's just made from chemicals. So head on over to knowsyourbourbon.com and enter code BP10 for 10% off your order. Ed Bly and Rising Tide Spirits are back again with a new release of Old Stubborn Bourbon. And this release of Old Stubborn is a premium hand marriage of 10, 11, and 12-year cask strength, barely filtered pot still bourbon It comes in at a staggering 123.8 proof, and the flavoring grain for this one, which the last one was wheated, but this time it's now rye. Rich, sweet, and bold with a long finish that's sure to be another eye-opener. You can order online at Sealbox or thebourbonconcierge.com, and you can even purchase in person at Revival Vintage Spirits, and even now with very few select stores in Kentucky. You can get it now while you can, but be sure to do it because it's not going to last long.
Play Whiskey Wednesday Round 11, the memory game. Until June 26, each week you could win one of our 12 incredible grand prizes. Select $2 at checkout, and if they match on drawing night, you'll win that bottle. Not a match? No worries. You still score a Weller 12-year. Every $5 ticket gives you 5 chances to win, including 4 weekly bonus prizes. Get your tickets now at give270.org. Charitable Gaming License ORG 0002703.
Welcome back to another episode of Bourbon Pursuit, the official podcast of bourbon. We are back with our 23rd recording of the Bourbon Community Roundtable, and we have got full quorum tonight. So if you're watching this on video, you're going to see lots of little tiny screens of video that are happening. But we've got one person that's the newest edition of Bourbon Pursuit that is also his first Bourbon Community Roundtable recording. So, well, Ryan, first off, hey, and then welcome Fred as well.
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
So
Fred's more important.
No, absolutely not. But Fred did put up a new sign, if anybody's watching on video, that says vodka sucks in his background.
I don't know how that got there. I just walked into my office today and someone put it there. So someone's running a good prank on me.
I think I left it there the last time we hung out.
I hope Harlan Wheatley's not watching.
You know, it's funny. Harlan, I have asked Harlan many times as like, you know, you're one of the greatest bourbon distillers of our time, and yet you choose to name a vodka after yourself versus a bourbon. And, you know, the big reason is he's a distiller, kind of like someone like a lot of these distillers like Greg Metz and, you know, Greg Davis and Harlan Wheatley. A lot of these like just real like distillers, they're always with the equipment. They really do like vodka because it does take a lot of effort for them to produce. Now, on the consumer side, we don't enjoy it as much, but it's not as easy to produce because you have to have special equipment, you know, and if you do want to get any flavor out of it, you have to, you know, do certain things. And he's
more of a purist craft.
What's that?
More of a purist kind of craft as opposed to bourbon.
Yeah, I think it's a distillation, you know, so distillers like to distill, and he gets to distill that thing a lot. So he really does enjoy it. And, you know, and bourbon's so much of the barrel. And, but I really do hate vodka. And it's.
Yeah, can we move on? Can we move on from vodka?
We don't.
Yeah, we've
This
talked
is the
about
vodka round.
That's good. That's good.
Fred, you're already blowing it.
Oh, no.
It was only a matter of time.
22 says that Fred secretly drinks Zima in the background when we're not watching. So,
can you still get Zima? I haven't seen it in the store. I know it's back.
I thought they did like a re-release.
It was.
Green Jolly Ranchers.
It's out this summer.
It was. Okay, before we dive into it, let's go ahead and do our Around the Horn real quick. So, Kerry, let's go ahead and start with you, buddy.
Hey guys, Kerry from Suburbia, SUBOURBIA.com. You can find me on Twitter at bourbon_gamer. I actually just wrote a blog article. Can't even say it because I don't write it that much. Just came out with one. I'm going to be doing a couple more reviews coming up, and find me online.
Nice.
Jordan.
Sure. This is Jordan from Breaking Bourbon. I'm one of the 3 guys who runs the site. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Patreon at Breaking Bourbon. You can also sign up for our newsletter and to celebrate the upcoming Bourbon Beyond Festival that Fred's helping to run. At the end of September, we're doing some ticket giveaways for some pairs of general admission tickets on Facebook and Instagram. So make sure to go check it out, and you can end up drinking bourbon with a bunch of us you see on this video call today.
Absolutely. I think the majority of this call is all going to be there. So it's going to be an opportunity for everybody to do that. And yeah, please go check out Breaking Bourbon's page. Make sure you sign up there. And of course, we've got pairs of tickets we're giving away as well. So
for sure.
I've got a teaser for you all too. We're going to have a bourbon green room. So
Very cool.
Man.
And you all are going to be a part of it.
I don't even know what that means.
No, I don't either.
It means he doesn't want us with the rest of the population. So like, we'll call it something really cool, like the green room.
I don't want to disappoint anyone. Thinking it's cool to drink bourbon with us.
I went to high
Hype
school
it up.
prom. I know how this works.
It's like a farm to table. Wait, I'm excited. I got to make it up there.
Yeah, you definitely do. So Brian, go ahead. You're next.
All right. Thanks for joining us again. This is Brian with Sippin' Corn. Finally, mostly at Twitter, Sippin' Corn, a little bit on Facebook. And everyone except Bryant Roberts can look at the new gear here. And this is going to be the new trend in T-shirts, I can tell. And I'm really happy to have this. He hooked me up with this T-shirt, so I'm drinking some turkey tonight.
Nice.
Well, I didn't see it all the way up because the little faces were in the way.
Oh, yeah.
And explain it for our audio listeners too.
Carrie's
For the
hair was
sure. I've got the DSP KY with the turkey number. So this is it's inside baseball for dorks like us who know which DSP number is which, and you can show your love for your brand.
So that's Wild Turkey, the 67?
Yeah, that's turkey.
Cool.
Next is me collecting the whole series, right?
That is exactly right. Then you got to get the original, the old DSP number, the pre-pro number, and and get them all.
It's kind of like having an 86259 T-shirt. You know, you gotta.
That's right.
There you go. Yeah, just the barcode on there. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I heard they got Beanie Babies now with DSP numbers on them. So
Next fad. All right, Blake, go ahead and round it out.
All right, so I'm Blake from bourboner.com. You can find me bourboner.com, all the social media outlets, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I was going to try to save this special announcement till the end of the show, but I figure I'll go ahead and give it out now. So most of you probably know there's a Christmas tree decoration that's usually behind me in these things. The Reavers are actually going to be moving, so it may be coming to a Facebook marketplace near you. So be on the lookout. This is it's going to be a limited
Blake's wreath.
Yeah, limited edition boxwood tree that gets ridiculed in a lot of these things because sometimes it looks like it's on top of my head. You know, I'm not lined up straight. So I'll take any trades, any ISOs at this point. So just be on the lookout on the second.
More importantly, where are you moving?
Across town. A house with more than 3 bedrooms with 12 kids or whatever I have now. So.
Room for the minivan.
The tree's really a decanter full of bourbon, right?
Hey, I will say, you always look well rested despite having 19 kids at any time in your house. I don't understand it.
Well, because the kids take care of the farm. He's actually inside.
I'm just sitting in here in the AC with a glass of sweet tea, you know.
It's all that football experience he has. He's conditioned for it.
As an NFL linebacker, tight end. I believe I was a tight end.
Placeholder.
One of my favorite article, poor researching I've ever seen in my entire life was calling me a former NFL tight end. That made my year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Keep that and show the kids. They'll be impressed.
Yeah, just print it out and frame it now before anybody actually.
I actually just went and created a Wikipedia page for myself immediately and said, accountant, bourbon personality, former NFL tight end. Really round out the trio.
Nice.
All right, I'm ready for Fred's intro.
Well, I mean, Fred's part of us, but Fred, if you got something you want to introduce yourself.
I don't really have anything. I guess.
Oh, great.
Perfect. Let's get rolling.
I'm me.
Good deal. So we've got 53 viewers that are live with us right now. Back to the T-shirt topic we were talking about. Nick Burleson said we could also do tax stamps across T-shirts as well. So start understanding the years of tax stamps. But with that, for anybody that is watching live right now, if you got some questions you want to kind of toss at us, go ahead. Feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll get to them. We've got a whole list of good potential topics tonight that is easily going to take up an hour of time, but we'll go ahead and we'll get it started. So we are seeing a lot of new distilleries that are typically this is what we see all the time, that people are starting distillery. They source 99% of the time. It's usually from MGP. And at some point, they are going to have to start moving to their own distillate. That's sort of like the progress everybody wants to be or try to take because they want to be able to make some sort of revenue. Now, the real question is when we look at somebody that has already done this, we look at OKI to New Riff, right? So that's the New Riff example. Smooth Ambler has done this already. You see a lot of their store picks going away. They've got a few things that are still in the 9 to 11 year range that sort of come out as single barrels, but they're really starting to push big level. 107, some of the stuff that's their own distillate. And this is eventually going to be the trend we're going to see with a lot of these mid-range or even craft distilleries. So the question that I kind of pose to you guys is when is the right time to do this? Because is there going to be a scenario where somebody could end up shooting themselves in the foot by saying, I'm going from releases that are the 9 to 12 year range and then releasing something that's in the 2 to 4 year range? And is it going to hurt the brand? Anybody that wants to go first, feel free to chime in.
Well, as the oldest, sorry, Fred, as the oldest, before anyone comes in, because I'm the only one of you guys who is alive and old enough to know this. But in the late 70s, there was a Paul Masson wine commercial with Orson Welles, and he had the tagline, "We will sell no wine before."
Wait, how old are you? How old are you?
I'm really old. I'm older than that. And that's what these distillers have to do. I mean, they have to hold on to it. If their bourbon's not ready after 4 years, they got to hold on to it. I mean, there's no way they can kill their brand by switching from an 8-year or 12-year MGP and then start selling something that no one's going to like just because it turned 4 years and they can not put an age statement on it.
I think
so they just got to wait.
It's like Smooth Ambler. You know, I do have a lot of respect for Smooth Ambler. I love their old Scout products, you know, that they sourced. But, you know, they've been trying to push out their product for a while now. And I'll be honest, it's just I haven't really found a taste for it.
I'm drinking it right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely growing on me, but I think it's still a little bit young, and they took, you know, they had to take the turn, and a lot of people, you know, give them crap for what they're producing, but they're making it with their own hands, and they're putting it out. They're honest about everything they put out. And I think in a couple more years, it'll be really good stuff.
And I think we had talked about this on a previous episode one time, but, you know, part of the problem, no matter when you make that transition, I don't care if it's a 4-year bourbon, I don't care if it's 9-year or age it as long as you want, right? The thing of it is, up until that point, you've been sourcing your bourbon, you have a very distinct flavor profile that people have gotten used to, right? And the longer you get used to that flavor profile, when you switch over to your own distillate, it's usually going to taste different. And that's an issue, because now you've had these people who have followed your distillery, really loved, even if it's sourced, they really love the product you put out, but they've gotten used to a very distinct flavor profile, right? Like the Smooth Ambler Big Level I'm drinking now, sure, it's good. It doesn't taste like, you know, what I used to buy from Smooth Ambler when they used to source it, et cetera. So it's not only, you know, what is the right time to put out the bourbon, but how do you get consumers to now believe that you're now changing the flavor profile overall of your product, right? Like think of Coke all of a sudden was like, we're going to change your flavor profile. You're just going to start liking it too, right? Yeah. That's a really tough sell.
So this is nothing. This is nothing that is new whatsoever. In fact, the big brands are changing their profile all the time. E.g., Benchmark, very old Barton, some of the Wellers. You know, the fact is, this is American whiskey, and this is how it's been done for hundreds of years. And what it comes down to is, have they been able to build a brand? Can their brand sustain, you know, the market share that they created with the previously sourced whiskey? And what you see is you see a lot of these craft distillers who are doing it, sourcing. They're finding ways to make it unique for themselves. High West, Smooth Ambler with Contradiction, and so they have been able to create their own flavor profile, whereas a lot of them just bottle straight MGP, and those are the people that kind of get caught flat-footed. Now, what's interesting about New Riff, which is what I've been sipping all night, their number one consultant was Larry Ebersol. Larry Ebersol was the master distiller for the Lawrenceburg, Indiana distillery prior to Greg Metz. So he was able to help them kind of hit that flavor profile that they were looking for. And I'm telling you, I'm tasting that 4-year-old New Riff, and for 4 years old, I mean, it's fantastic. And the fact that it's bottled and bond is even better. The fact that it's a small distillery and they're putting it out for less than $40, granted it's $39. The fact that it's a small distillery and they're not charging me $180 for it, I'm just ready to spend $40. You know, I mean, I could afford $40 any day of the week. Most people can, and that's the kind of move that you want to see someone make. That they've taken the progression and they got the right people to help them make the right whiskey. The people who are caught flat-footed are those who have not done a good job of bringing the right people in to get their own flavor profile down.
And I guess
is that one distributed yet? The one you're talking about, New Riff?
it's only in around Kentucky, as far as I understand.
It's distributed in my office right now.
Fred, I am so happy you're talking about New Riff because Kenny and I just agreed to a whole barrel of it. So it will sell like hotcakes now. No, I'm kidding.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think what you have a lot of people kind of like what Fred did of what did they do to build the brand around it. Everyone, I don't think a Smooth Ambler lost any market share once they start transitioning to their own juice or their own bourbon. But you look at like kind of a poor example of doing this is whenever the Black Maple Hill bounced around, the label bounced around, and then it became an Oregon product, and everybody's like, "What in the world is this?" Well, no, they didn't really build that brand. They were just kind of going off of people buying it because it had that same label. So. But the quality died, and I doubt there's many people still buying Black Maple Hill, at least in the bourbon communities. So it all comes back to, how did you treat your customers? Did you build that base? Did you have that following? And if you did, and if you have a good product still, or even if it's just shows promise, I think they'll be okay. But it's kind of an easy one to screw up too.
Maybe you should just make sure that Black Maple Hill doesn't have any more access to cognac bottles to be able to bottle it. Right?
If it does, everyone's in big trouble.
Yeah. And so I guess another thing, because the same things, this is the story of Whistle Pig, right? Like Whistle Pig's putting out a bunch of MGP product that's kind of proofing it down, but they're also distilling. And so at some point they are going to, but at some point they are going to start mixing their own distillate with the source stuff. And Smooth Ambler, I think, was that Contradiction? Were they doing that with Contradiction as well?
They blended that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I kind of want to get you guys' feeling about this. Like, is that the way that they should be going as well to try to find this particular flavor profile? Or is it just like, hey, we've got some stuff, let's go ahead and put it out there? Like, is that the right?
I don't think young whiskey can compete. I mean, young whiskey is young whiskey, no matter where it's made or how it's made.
You can't hide age. Unfortunately,
you can't buy age. So you got to mix it. And if you've come up with a good blend of it, I mean, I had one 107 blend from Smooth Ambler that I thought was really good, but most of them, to me, I feel like it's the young profile, the young flavor always dominates to me. But I think if you're able to blend it just right with just enough age, you get something that tastes pretty good. Like, wasn't the first batch of Kentucky Owl, was that blended? A couple different blends?
It's all bourbon straight whiskey, but a bunch of barrels.
I'll say this. It's very important to note that this is how Julian Van Winkle did it. This is how Trey Zoller started Jefferson's. And we cannot discount the humans touching the whiskey. And there's a lot of source whiskey purveyors who have incredible palates in their midst. One that comes to mind is Barrel Bourbon.
Yeah, Joe
Barrel Bourbon, release after release. Some are better than others, but they have created a kind of a house profile for themselves. And you can taste it in their blends. You can taste it in their bourbons, not as much with their ryes. And they just have a really good palate for finding good spirits because, they're also bottling rum. Mm-hmm. And I think that if as long as you have the right team in place, the right palates, the right consultants and everything, you're always going to be able to hit that mark.
Yeah, for sure.
I think, going back to your question, Kenny, on mixing both sourced and your own. I mean, look at High West, for example, right? So they've slowly been, both Rendezvous Rye, Double Rye, now Campfire, they just made the announcement. They're slowly putting in more and more of their own distillate with their sourced whiskey. And I think eventually, their goal is to phase it out, but they're going for like a much longer runway, much longer timeline. So eventually people are just going to say, all right, so they've done it so slowly that we don't even realize the difference versus yanking the Band-Aid right off, which is an interesting approach to take for sure.
Yeah.
Do you think some of it has to do with the fact that the sourced whiskey probably went up a lot in price when bourbon,
For sure.
the popularity went crazy, especially with Smooth Ambler. They couldn't get any more MGP barrels. They were so popular. Everybody loved that program.
Yep.
And then it seems like the prices kept going up to the point where they couldn't get it anymore.
So I'll tell you what the price for. You guys keep talking. I get updated on what the wholesale pricing is for stuff by a source. You guys, I'll tell you what a barrel of like 8-year-old bourbon right now is going for in the
from MGP.
No, I got an MGP source, and then I got a. Keep talking. I got to find it.
So I guess another question. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, just for me personally, as a consumer, I would rather have new distillate mixed with aged stuff. I just don't want to spend the money on a young whiskey that's not going to be worth my money. I don't know. I would rather them mix and then gradually transition versus like, here's our new stuff. Hope you like it. And I don't know. That would be me personally. Because the young always comes through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the young notes you can't really hide too much because you're always going to get that grain, those grain notes out of it. But another question I want to throw out to you guys is like, when do you stomach up and maybe buy another bottle? Like maybe it's been 2 years, right? We've all got enough bourbon in our bunkers that we wouldn't have to buy another bottle for 10 years. But at what point did you try something and you're like, you need to wait a little bit longer, and then maybe wait 2 years? Like, is that enough time? Do you wait for the next Breaking Bourbon extended review to come out to be able to say like, okay, well now I'll go pick up another bottle? Like what's your?
I judge it based on secondary market cost. I think goes up a lot. That means it's a really good bottle.
Shout out to Old Body.
If you guys want to know, like this is the barrel pricing right now for wholesale for a source whiskey purveyor to get a barrel of 11-year-old Kentucky, $7,000. A single barrel is $7,000. So they've got to pay for the bottle. They got to pay for the processing and all that. A little younger, 6,500. That's for a barrel, and then Tennessee whiskey. Tennessee bourbon is quite a bit cheaper. So anything from Kentucky or for Tennessee or Indiana is typically either half or $2,000 to $3,000 left. So the Kentucky bourbon, the juice from here is always going to be more valuable. So,
but is that 7,000 regardless of how much is in it?
Yeah. And often when you are buying the barrels, you don't even get a right to know if it's filled. So you kind of take it on receipt. You don't take it on inspection. So you take it on receipt of like whether or not it's good. And so that's what's within the hands of some of the brokers right now. And
you could get that barrel and it is leaky and you get 50 bottles out of it, and then you're stuck there thinking, oh shoot, I just paid $7,000 for 50 bottles. So you're taking a really
time to call it limited edition, and
that's why you got to bring a scale.
Yeah,
good backstory.
That's
hello orphan barrel.
That's
right.
So last question while we're still on this topic is one of the things that we all are guilty of it. Everybody's sitting here is when you say that, oh, I can taste the potential, or this has a lot of potential.
What is it in a cocktail?
What does that mean? Like, because in my opinion, when somebody says like I can taste the potential, like whether it's a spirit that's basically less than 5 or 4 years old, I'm kind of like, well, so you mean it's just not really that great right now, right? Like, what does it really mean to be able to judge something and say I can see its potential?
Yeah, for me, it's, if you're getting good notes out of it, but then you're just getting a little bit of that grain wood, a little bit little bit too, what would be the word? Just some of those young notes that you usually get. If you're getting a lot of good notes, but then just the greenness is coming through, that's what potential is for me. So if I'm getting good spice, good sweetness, but it's just not balanced because there is that youth in it, you get some of the raw spirit taste. That's what I would call good potential. But, it can be a cop-out answer because everything at 2 years old, you may say is tastes good, has potential, but
it's great for 2 years.
Well, but I think
that's flavor, just not finished.
Yeah, and I think so I just reviewed a long review on Pinhook's Bourbon and Rye, right? And I know they're going to be switching over to Castle and Key to make the distillate down the road, but younger rye, aged at least 24 months, and it was good. It had potential. I'd love to see what it looks like. To me, potential means, all right, let's review it in a few years. If you can put a little bit of age in this, let's see how that changes the characteristics. I think it's going to trend upwards. Like potential with anything, sometimes potential comes true, sometimes it doesn't, right? And that's just real life too. So for me, potential is saying, hey, I can see it's good right now. I think it can be better. I think it's trending that way, right? I have a little faith. Let's revisit it. Let's try it at a bar in a few years or buy another bottle and see what takes place. And hopefully it turns out to be true. Maybe not. You never know. But, to me, that's potential when I say that in a review.
And also price, too. If they're, pricing $99 for 2-year rye, that's probably going to turn me off.
My 8th grade baseball coach told me I had potential, and I didn't make it in baseball. So, there are words that as a reviewer that, I kind of use to give myself an out of, because sometimes things do turn for the better. It's true. Like I hated Redemption 2-year-old. I hated it when it first came out. But I love that 15-year-old, and I love the 8-year-old that they had out. That came out later. But I love, Redemption 2-year-old made great cocktails, and so but also bartenders can mask a lot of things in cocktails. So potential is one of those words that if you hear and you're a producer, that just means that I don't love it that much.
Yeah, potential for me is it's tolerable as it is now, because most young whiskeys to me are not tolerable. Like I can't even finish them. And so if I can at least finish it, I think, all right, this has a chance.
If I don't throw up from how bad it is, I think it's got potential. Yeah.
Exactly.
Did you go blind? Did you go blind? No. Okay, it's got potential.
Okay, true story. I got a sample once from a California distiller that I started having blurry vision. I put it down right away, and from that point on, I stopped tasting unlabeled samples. So that really did happen to me once. That was like 10 years ago.
So I have a quick side note on that. I have a guy who emailed me and said, hey, I want you to try this stuff. It's bourbon. I'm like, okay, cool. Where's it from? No answer. He's like, when can I get you the sample? I'm like, yeah, no problem. Where's it from? Still no answer. I'm like, buddy, are you distilling this in your backyard? Or I don't want to try your bathtub gin that comes in an unlabeled. Now I'm really not going to if I could fix my blurry vision and.
It's serious stuff, man. You can't risk your health on that. I mean, I've got plenty of other bottles I got to taste.
There's plenty of bourbon that I could be drinking without the chance of losing my eyesight.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to our next subject. And this is going to be something where most of the people around here have had the opportunity to be able to try it. Heaven Hill has sent out samples for their next 3 releases that will be coming out. And we'll talk about each one just for a few minutes individually, just to kind of give our group thoughts and figure out, is it really worth part of the chase, or where do you kind of see it stacking up? So the first one that I want to kind of talk about is, we'll start off with the New Parkers, the New Parkers Heritage. So
if you're anything like me, then you can't get enough about bourbon. And that's why I'm a subscriber to Bourbon Plus magazine. Bourbon Plus is a quarterly publication that tells the stories from the heart of bourbon, the farmers who grow the grain, the distillers who labor over the process, and the people like you and me who raise their glasses to celebrate it all. Subscribe to Bourbon Plus magazine today at bourbonplus.com, that's PLUS.com, and use code PURSUIT at checkout for $5 off your subscription. Shopify's already taken the cash register online, helping millions sell billions around the world. But did you know that Shopify can do the same thing at your retail store? Give your point-of-sale system a serious upgrade with Shopify. Shopify's point-of-sale is your command center for your retail store. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify has everything you need to sell in person. And with Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. Connect with customers in-line and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns, from TikTok to Instagram and beyond. And get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone. Transform your tablet into a point-of-sale system or use Shopify's point-of-sale Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Do retail right with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/bourbon, all lowercase, and go to shopify.com/bourbon to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/bourbon.
So the first one that I want to kind of talk about is, we'll start off with the new Parkers, the new Parkers Heritage. So we talked about it a little bit before on the last roundtable. It was mostly just our thoughts, and I couldn't say Curacao correctly as well. If anybody wants to remember shaving me on that one. But now that everybody's had a chance to try this, it's a 7-year, 110 proof. I don't remember much else we talked about it because it was just a bunch of theories. But now that we've all had a chance to try it, just quick, kind of what's your opinions or thoughts?
I'm going to try it real quick.
And
just open it.
I'll tell you, because I had it a while ago. I've had it a couple times. I don't hate it as much as I thought I would hate it. I don't dislike it, but it's still, if I want a bourbon, I want it to taste like a bourbon. I guess that's my thing. I like the price for it this year, $89, and I think for $89, it's kind of a different pour. So pricing it at that point, I think, I don't know anybody who's going to pass on it if offered given an opportunity at retail, but it is different. It's got that kind of orangey, lemony flavor to it. I thought it finished a little better than I was expecting, and like I said, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would.
That shit is polarizing. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
Some people are going to taste it and they're going to be like, I fucking hate this. Some people are going to love it. In my career, that's one of the most polarizing whiskeys that I've had for myself personally. I started out hating it. I tasted it again. I loved it. The next day I hated it. The next day after that, I loved it. I mean, it's like a Jekyll and Hyde whiskey. And I really do think the guy who's behind it is actually the person who helped Booker Noe, do the cognac finish in the late 1990s. He's kind of a cognac legend, but he's done a lot of like barrel finishes to include the Willet, Grand Marnier finish, and it tastes nothing like his previous work. I mean, they aggressively used that Curacao barrel. They aggressively used it. It is the most prominent barrel finish flavor I have ever tasted.
More so than the Willet, Fred.
I think so. I thought the Willet was sweeter.
Okay.
I thought the Willet had a lot less of the bitter notes to it. I mean, you get orange rind on this. You get orange. You get like the orange pulp. You get orange. You get so much of the orange bitter.
We can just say like Minute Maid. I mean, we just keep going with the orange things here.
It's like you blend up oranges.
It's very orangey.
It's an orange bomb.
It truly is. I mean, I just poured some right now.
Then you'll take another sip. You'll take another sip and you'll be like, I don't taste any orange this time.
Well,
I taste orange every time.
I think you get familiar. The thing is, it's kind of like, it's an acquired taste within seconds, so you really do have to approach it unlike, and this is what I hate about the barrel finish. I hate this. Everyone puts bourbon finished in X cask. I really wish they wouldn't do that. While the government has allowed that, I really feel like it's a disservice to those of us who love bourbon, because like you said, you do not get bourbon with this. You do not get it. You get like a crazy whiskey, and it's fantastic, but you are going to get a lot of hate on it because it does have that bourbon on the label.
Yeah, and I was kind of with you. I did not like it. Now I'm going to go and try it again, but I just had a small pour a few days ago. Didn't really review it. Just wanted to try it, and I didn't like it. I don't know what it was about it necessarily. And yes, I picked up some of the orange, but to me, it was just a little flat for what I was expecting. You're expecting a lot of this bourbon flavor with this kind of that high citrus note. And it just felt very muddled to me. So,
let me ask you all this. So our samples just came in today, so we're going to be diving in and reviewing those shortly. But in the meantime, Angel's Envy Rye is one that really pulls out a strong barrel finish, right? Like you got the rum influence is heavy on that. Is it similar to that sort of situation or even more extreme?
No, because I think the rum probably sweetens it a little bit, right? Like I don't remember the last time I had the Angel's Envy.
Yeah,
Rye,
I mean,
this one still had a sharpness to it.
Okay.
It's definitely a lot more fruit forward, like you're gonna find.
It's like orange glow.
Yeah, and that's what somebody put tang in the comments, and I was like, yeah, probably get a little tang in there, right? I mean, you get a little bit of anything that is somewhat of an orange flavor. Yeah.
What I would recommend that you do is taste it 3 different times at 3 different days. That's how I assess all my ratings. And this is one where it cannot be more crucial for you to do this, because you can taste it one time like Blake did and just fucking hate it, and then you can taste it again and love it. And what if you were to make that assessment on the time you loved it or you hate it? Really, there could be, for this, I think there's an in between for everybody. But I see someone like Wade Woodard just like getting on Twitter and going nuts over it because this isn't bourbon. People don't think it's bourbon, not bourbon. Yeah, I see people going crazy over this thing.
I actually like it. This is the first like bourbon, or not bourbon, if you want to call it, Fred, that finishes like on the front or mid of my tongue and not the back. Like, I don't know. It just lingers on the front end and not on the back.
You got to swallow.
I know, I did. But it just sits up here up front versus, I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
It's spicier on the front,
Yeah.
For me, I'm kind of middle of the road on it. I'm not sold. I think it's probably one of those ones that if you can find it, great. I think you should get it. And it's kind of, it sort of reminds me of like the polarizing of the malt whiskey release from a few years ago. Mm-hmm. Where it's one of those things that it's not going to be like uber popular, but it's also one of the ones that if you put it in a lineup and you just want to try something different, hey, it's something different, right? I mean, I think this is honestly one of those things that are going to keep us coming back to bourbon to try something different as everybody's starting to get on the rum train or the Armagnac train and all these other things, because we're these bourbon drinkers that want to try something different. And I think this is one of those key categories where you can.
It's just so disappointing.
Let me say this. This is very important to point out, and that is that money from these releases go to benefit the ALS Foundation. I was very close with Parker Beam.
For sure.
Parker was a dear friend of mine. I spent time with him on his final days of his life, went to his funeral, and it was just, I can't tell you what that guy meant to me and what he meant to bourbon. And so even if you're in the spirit of giving, consider this a charitable donation if you're willing to take that chance. If not, you don't want to give it, then I just ask you to maybe give a little money to the ALS Foundation.
I don't think anybody's going to pass it up at retail anyway. So I don't know.
I poured my last bit that I had left out of the sample for tonight to just give it a whirl again. And I agree with Fred with good cause, agree with whoever said at 89, you don't pass this up. But you got to approach it knowing that it's going to be different and experience something different. I mean, they're not trying to make this be a regular bourbon that you've tasted before. So give it a whirl.
Yeah, and I think we still need to be fair and give our thousands of hundreds of thousands of viewers our honest opinion of it, regardless.
All right, let's move on just a little bit because I know we still have a few more topics left and we're going to run short on time. So the next one that we're going to do is the next version of the Old Fitz Bottled and Bond that'll be released, which is the fall 2018 edition. For anybody that they don't know and they see all these cool decanters, they think it was a one-time run. It's not. They're going to have a fall and spring release for the next 5 years. So you're going to see a lot of those decanters come out and they're all going to have different color labels. So make sure you keep that in your mind. So this was fall of 2008. So we're looking at a 10-year, it says 9-year on here. Of course, 100 proof. And I know from reading some of the reviews of you guys, you all thought this one was probably one of the better of the three. So feel free to speak up, whoever wants to take it on.
It was great. I liked it. Liked it a lot.
Yeah, I was pretty critical of the first one, and I thought this was much better. I still wouldn't. I wouldn't say I love it, but it was much more representative of that great looking bottle. I guess I'll say. I thought it was much improved, but still, I wouldn't put it $110. I would pick the Parker's Heritage over this.
I just tried it again. I think this is a world beyond the last release.
Yeah,
I think
it's a lot better.
Yeah.
It doesn't fall apart like the last one sort of did. This is a definite buy in my opinion if you can find it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this one. I really enjoy it. The last one was so disappointing that I'm happy with this one. I'd buy it.
Out of the three, this is the one I'm looking for. Sorry, Kerry. Out of the three, all of these, I'm looking for the Old Fitzgerald.
So I was blown away by the first time I tried the sample of it, and then the next night I had my buddy Chuck over, and we blindly poured this new one with the spring release of Old Fitz. And surprisingly, we actually thought they were closer. I think we may have just gotten our taste buds muddled a little bit, but we thought they were closer than I had remembered, and the spring one was not as bad as I remembered. But then I tried it again last night and reaffirmed that it's really, really good, the fall release.
Good deal. All right, so last one we're going to hit on is kind of like the one that I think most whiskey geeks are going to go a little ape shit over, right? I mean, you see this big old number on the front. You see the number 27, Heaven Hill, aged 27 years, barrel proof at 94.7. So I know that this is one thing that we've talked about before, like the last Parker's, that was the 24 year. I think there was somebody that commented that it was like drinking from whiskey that was filtered through your grandmother's underwear. But I kind of want to get your all's thoughts on something that's this old before we, because I just poured some myself, so I still got to kind of taste it.
Yeah, so I actually love this one. I thought for 27 years old, it was incredibly well balanced. I'm assuming there's some pretty heavy filtration in there. Thought it still had a lot of good fruity notes in there. It wasn't just completely overly oaked. But that was my opinion. Out of the three, I would. And now, granted, I know it's a much more expensive bottle, but just if we lined all three of these up, I think I would pick the 27 year as my favorite.
This is one of those bottles that it's very historic. First of all, it's pre-fire. Heaven Hills Distillery burned down in 1996, so it's part of that whiskey that that Parker would have distilled at that old distillery. So it's very historic, and to that, I applaud it. It is, you don't taste a lot of bourbon that is good after 18 years. What Pappy Van Winkle's been able to do with their 20 and 23-year-old releases, and to an extent with some of those great 25-year-old ryes, that's nothing short of a miracle. And it's really about finding the right barrels and everything. This 27-year-old is the best past 25 years old I've ever tasted in a bourbon. That said, I still scored it only an 86. I thought it had, it did not have, Blake is right, it was not over oaked. It did not have a lot of those oaky notes that I was expecting to get. But what it did have is it had some of the kind of like a little bit of a mildew, a little bit of a, like an oversaturated tobacco. There was a very heavy tobacco note on there and a bitterness that kind of came in toward the end and just hung there. And then there were a lot of fruits, a lot of dried fruits. There was a lot of nice things happening to it. The nose was phenomenal. But when you got to that finish, the finish just fell off. And really, that's kind of what it was for me. At the end of the day, the finish just collapsed. And nonetheless, an 86 is still, for me, that's kind of in the league of like, for a lot of people, that would be like a 92. So an 86 is nothing to be ashamed of, but at the end of the day, it's your $400. And if, you want to spend $400 on what I consider to be an 86 point whiskey, then knock yourself out.
The nose on this is unbelievable. I think it's great. The front end is very fruity, light of cherry, like cordial ice cream notes, but the finish just ruins this for me. I don't know, the finish
Ruins it even.
Yeah, it's so bitter on the finish for me.
It's a little bitter. I agree the nose is really good though.
How does it compare? Has anyone compared it to the Parker's Release 2? We're looking forward to doing that comparison ourselves.
It's better.
Is it?
Nothing like the 27 year, but it is the exact same thing as the 24 year. You heard it first from me right here. It's the exact same thing. The first sip I had of 27, I said, this is Parker's 24. And I've done 3 blind tastings since then with a buddy of mine. We all agree it's the exact same thing 2 years later. It's Parker's 24. Somehow there's one more age.
3 years later.
In there, but it's the same exact.
Carrie doesn't do math.
It doesn't matter. They made up a year or something. But if you
It's a leap year.
Yeah.
if you liked Parker's 24, you'll like Parker's 27. It's just a question of whether you want to spend
I didn't
4.
really like the 24, but I did like the 27, which was interesting. Yeah, but
Well, this one is the spring, and this is fall of 1990, and it's the exact same thing as the 27 year.
Jordan, what'd you think?
Again, Fred, our samples just came in today, so we'll be doing a full review and write-up later, so we haven't a chance to crack them and taste them yet. But we
And
are
that's
looking forward to
BreakingBourbon.com, folks. BreakingBourbon.com.
He's coming in playing cleanup. He's got to get some confirmation.
we
bias.
save the best for last is what we like to think here at BreakingBourbon.com.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to, it might be our last topic of the night because we are going to run a little short here, a little long, should I say. Sticking with the Heaven Hill theme, Heaven Hill entered a new legal battle today. This was something that our own legal counsel here on the roundtable informed us about, that Heaven Hill is now suing Bob Dylan. Not Bob Dylan directly, but it is Heaven's Door Spirits, which is Bob Dylan's sort of whiskey company. And the idea in here is something that Brian had actually mentioned on the show before about the Lanham Act, and we had a good in-depth conversation about it, and really what that means of going into infringement of the name of Heaven Hill, sounding somewhat similar to Heaven's Door. And there was a lot of good information that was put in the complaint, as well as the expert report that kind of came out of it. And before I let Brian sort of take it from here, the one thing that I found super interesting was that there was a kind of a summary paragraph that talked about almost, I think it said there was 200 respondents that went into this, and almost 50% of the respondents said that there was some sort of confusion with the name, where they actually thought this could be a whiskey that was put out by Heaven Hill. So I'm going to let Brian kind of talk and give it a little bit more in depth about what this really means and go into it.
Sure. Thanks. So first off, anyone who owns a trademark has to protect it. That's part of the Lanham Act. I mean, so it forces brands' hands. So you've got Sazerac, when you've got a Canadian whiskey called Bison Ridge, they have to sue Bison Ridge because they think that's too close to Buffalo Trace, which I don't think any of us would really think it is, but they had a picture of a buffalo on it with a mountain. And so they got sued, and now they don't call it Bison Ridge anymore. So same sort of thing here. If there is any hint whatsoever that of any confusion, Heaven Hill has to protect its trademark. So that's what it's doing here. And a lot of these complaints don't come out with these expert reports like this one does. So this one has like a 170-page expert report that comes out with it. And they go through this study where they have 200 people in a survey and then 200 more people in a control group. And they, in addition to the Heaven Hill brands and the Heaven Door brand, they added in Angel's Envy because of the connection with heaven and angels, and then Bowers Hill to add the word hill into it. So the survey people couldn't tell that they're focusing on this new brand, this Bob Dylan brand. And over half of the people in the first 200 said that there was confusion. It's like 56% indicated that there was some confusion between Heaven Hill and the new brand. And then in the control, you use a control group in these kinds of situations to reduce that. So it ends up being 39% of the respondents thought there was confusion, which is actually really high. I mean, maybe the folks who are listening to this aren't going to be confused about it, and they already know that it's something different, that it's not Heaven Hill. But when you look at regular consumers, this survey says that there's 39% confusion. And that's what the Lanham Act is focused on, is there a potential for consumer confusion? And that's what Heaven Hill's trying to protect against here. And I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. Is there any confusion just in the sound of the name, in the shape of the bottle, and the way they do the label, and in the trade dress? What do you guys think?
For me, one of the thing about Heaven Hill that mostly, at least all the whiskey geeks know about, is they've got a catalog of bourbon brands and whiskey brands and just spirit brands that not even employees at Heaven Hill know all of them, right? I mean, they're massive. And so it's really hard. I kind of feel a little bit bad for, I wouldn't say I feel bad for Bob Dylan, but the whiskey company in general, that they have to go through this. They probably spend a whole lot of time trying to figure out and brainstorm, like, what's this name going to be? How do we not get in sort of a trademark infringement, right? And now they're getting put in this situation. I think you kind of do get backed up in the corner sometimes when you're like, okay, you gotta go for it. Unfortunately, this is one of those times that, I don't want to say it's shocking, but we always see a lot of this coming out of Sazerac. This is probably one of the few times that we see it coming out of Heaven Hill. So,
well, you actually do. It's happened a lot over the years, and Brian's got a book coming out about this that's fantastic, and it goes through the various history of these disputes. But I'm really saddened by this, because I know the real guy who's behind, Heaven's Door, and he's just got a partnership with Bob Dylan. He's just a great guy. And, I know that he had no ill will here. He probably wanted to, tap into his partner's iconic legacy. And Heaven's Hill, or heaven, good God, I just did the confusion.
You did it yourself. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Just give him,
wow.
Just give him ammo.
That's actually,
That's exhibit 1, Fred.
That's exhibit 1. Heaven's Door, that is Bob Dylan's, trademark. But, there's a lot of things they could have named it after, with Bob Dylan, and still would have had just as much of impact. And I imagine that's probably what they're going, they've got a lot of invested in this and everything. And it's kind of, Brian, what's the strategy from Heaven Hill of doing this now versus the cola stage when they would obviously known about it, or, a year ago when they started making people, sign NDAs to, taste the stuff? What's the strategy behind doing it now versus then?
It's tough to say. And Heaven Hill tried to address that in their complaint. They said they saw it with the cola approval. They saw it with the trademark request, and then they monitored it to see if they actually came out with a brand and to see if they actually were going to name it that. Because as the whiskey enthusiasts all know, there's a lot of colas that come out that never turn into a brand.
Correct.
And people are working on brand names, and they're working on designs and all those sorts of things, and we never see them. So Heaven Hill says they were monitoring that, and now once they know that it's coming out, this is why they have to sue now, is because now it's real, basically.
So what about the blend that Diageo did a couple years ago, Haven Hill, right? What was that? What was that blend? It was part of it was with the guy who's
Haven Hill Lodge.
Haven Hill Lodge.
Haven Hill Lodge. That's right.
Yeah. Did they sue on that one?
Heaven Hill sued on that one, and I remember, and that's something I didn't have a chance to look up today, whatever happened to it. But I remember when that happened, there was a lawsuit. So that'll have to be, I'll have to research
so they're
that,
at least consistent with that.
Right. They're at least consistent, and that's what the Lanham Act requires. It requires the trademark owners to be vigilant. And if you're not vigilant, you run the risk that you lose your trademark protection. I mean, bad things can happen when you don't sue. And that's, I think, why you see so many cease and desist letters and lawsuits on this issue.
I just don't understand how the Heaven's Door trademark attorney said, yep, this is going to pass. But I don't know. Just going through this a little bit myself, I just can't believe that they even thought this was going to not get some kind of problem. But, whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, you think about, aside from being in the whiskey world, what's more popular? Bob Dylan's Heaven's Door song or Heaven Hill Distillery? So,
Oh! Burn!
You hate to put it, and I get how they can defend it because we are in the whiskey world with that. But a trademark attorney who's not that familiar is like, oh, of course. It's like, trying to take a Beatles song. If the Beatles wrote Buffalo Trail or something and they came up with a bourbon about that, so I kind of get how they would have that. Just think, yeah, of course there's no confusion because everybody knows that song and nobody's confusing it with the distillery. Now, will Heaven Hill be successful? I don't know, but I think they're doing the right thing. Kind of, what Brian alluded to with they have to protect that trademark. So I think they're doing the right thing. In my opinion, they probably won't win because no judge wants to take down Bob Dylan. That's
Well, it depends on
That's
the
a fair
circuit
point.
you use.
Well, Heaven Hill asked for an injunction on this, so it should be a case that moves pretty quickly. So everyone stay tuned to Sip and Corn for updates, right?
I think Dylan is now writing Hurricane Part 2, where it's going to be about this lawsuit, about fighting.
Brian, but in your expert opinion, do you think Heaven Hill's not even going to have to even worry about this? Like they're going to get what they wanted?
Well, they're coming in from a position of power. I mean, they've got I guess I don't know what the Heaven's Door resources are, but Heaven Hill has the resources. They're coming in with an expert report, which is rare to do on the front end like this. So they're coming in with guns blazing.
They mean business.
And they mean business. They've got, a stack of papers coming in already. And Heaven's Door has a tough hill to climb with this injunction request. So within a matter of days, we might know whether or not there's an injunction.
So the company behind it is called Liquid Assets. It's one of the part of the team that's behind it, and it's got a lot of good talent in the business, and they don't have the resources to hang with Heaven Hill. No way.
And well, Fred, how's the whiskey taste? Have you opened that yet?
Let's do it.
Didn't I say this when we saw that bottle, Fred, at your office, that's not going to fly?
Yeah, you did actually. Yeah, you did. And then you broke my cork on something else. Yeah.
Ryan, you're exhibit 2. This is great.
I'm glad you reminded him.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that was like one of my best bottles. I don't even remember what it was, but
I can't think of it.
All right, so
one of my favorites.
This is Tennessee bourbon, which is most likely Dickel. And,
it's a great bottle too. These designs are great.
Yeah, that is a lot of investment.
Mm-hmm. For anybody that's not watching video, it's like screen printed on glass, very embossed. Like it looks, there's a lot of work to it.
Actually, it's kind of engraved.
Is it raised?
A little bit. Yeah, the back part's raised. All right.
And if anybody's looking for a new job, they actually have the guy that what he got paid in here. He said he was billing at his hourly rate of $675. So that's not cheap. Well, it says it right in the expert report that his connection with this matter is being billed at his hourly rate of $675. So, but he is also a graduate of Harvard Law School.
Shit!
So he also has a bachelor's and a master's degree in mathematics. So he doesn't sound like he's an idiot.
He's nothing on Brian. I can't wait to see Brian's.
Bring it.
So it's very high on alcohol on the nose, which.
What's the proof?
It's 90. So it's coming in very high on alcohol for me on the nose. So it's got, you can always get a little bit of that. It hits the back of my nose a little bit harder. But in terms of notes, a little bit of dried fruits, touch of vanilla, but not much. It's pretty flat on the nose.
Everybody's waiting in anticipation.
I know.
It's a minute.
This is like kind of like
Bob Dylan's watching.
I can't wait to hear about the bourbon I'm never going to buy.
Yeah, it's not recommended, but it's grainy on the palate. It's got a little sweetness, but it's kind of like a corn sweetness. So, think like cornbread batter or like fresh cornbread right out of the oven. A little bit of maybe a little brown sugar on it, but there's not much to it.
What about orange curacao?
So Matt, on the comments, I totally missed my own tough hill to climb, and
that was a great pun
intended.
That was a great pun.
I mean, why didn't I think of that? No pun intended, right?
Well, fellas, listen, I'm going to be the first to bail because I still have work I got to do.
Go for it. We're gonna wrap it up with one more question. So this is one that I want to throw to the group, and kind of just an easy one. So it's a fun one that we'll all just kind of might have to think real hard about. Maybe look in your your bourbon collection. But what do you consider a modern unicorn? So we all know the old unicorns of the Velvet Glove and Iron Fist and the Parker's.
What's modern?
Two.
What's modern?
I would say modern within the past 2 years.
Oh, good God. That's not modern. That's
Old Baldy, right?
babies.
Old Baldy one.
I mean, you gotta think the Van Winkle 25 year would have to be up there.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking modern unicorns. Aside from that,
we got to back up. What's a unicorn? I mean, the unicorn is slipped now. You've got some joker with Elmer T. Lee in his crotch. And he says, I found this unicorn while hunting in the wild. I mean, no, stop, right?
The only Elmer.
Have you been checking my Instagram feed?
Yeah. The only Elmer T. Lee that was ever a unicorn was probably the white label. And then you also had all the gold wax ones, right? I mean, those are probably the only ones that you consider probably the unicorns of Elmer's. But I mean, I think
say the commemorative one, because I've got a couple of those to sell.
So
yeah, I guess.
I would say the biggest unicorn that I have is the Bourbon Roundtable Buffalo Trace that I wasn't even at.
Yes.
And I do still have some for sale. So if you guys
No shame. No shame.
What a dick. There you go.
Andy's out.
This is
you guys have been fun. Thank you.
Later, Carrie. Yeah, so I mean, if you guys have any other ideas of this was one thing that I saw on one of the forums that people asked, what do you think is a modern unicorn? They range anywhere from just anything in the Van Winkle lineup to anything in the antique collection lineup. But
Victor's 25 would probably be in that category.
I'm a big fan of Victor's 20 myself. Having a bottle and having a few friends over and they convinced me to open it was one of the worst drunk decisions ever. But it is a damn good bottle. It is a damn good bottle.
I've got a couple, but I'm not going to say what they are.
Oh, that's really
like that.
Come on, Fred.
You come into the round table, you start knocking out of the park.
Talking about vodka. And then,
Fred's got a vodka unicorn.
It is true. I do have a vodka unicorn. It's called Bourbon Justice. You can find it in bookstores.
I love you.
Yeah, that's Brian's book, everybody. It's gonna be awesome. You want to read that? It's a great new history to bourbon. I'm so glad you wrote it. I really am.
It'll change your life.
Your help with it.
And vodka justice to follow shortly.
Recently that no one was around to kind of show him the ropes or help him, and that's exactly what he did for me. So I'm glad Fred's a part of this and want to say thanks to him out loud for that.
Yeah, you bet, man. I actually, it's something I'm very passionate about. It's part of like what I'm doing with Bourbon and Beyond is bringing a lot of people in to moderate, Brought Blake in. I've got you in. I've got Ryan, unfortunately, and then Kenny. But
yeah, I don't know how.
Jordan, I'm so glad you can make it out this year.
Yeah, for sure. We're excited. Yeah, we're definitely excited.
And I really do mean this. Is that I had Chuck, and Chuck was like, good job, and that and that was like the world to me 10, 12 years ago. But I want to see people doing good things in bourbon, in terms of covering it instead of becoming Instagrammer famous. So,
So Fred, unless you watched
Blake, your
last Bourbon Community Table, Fred, I mentioned that for Bourbon and Beyond, I'm bringing a 17-year-old Old Taylor from the era.
Great! So you just admitted to bootlegging in the festival. I didn't hear anything. I heard nothing.
Heard nothing. But if there's no appeal on the Castle and Key case, I'm bringing a certain 17-year-old bourbon, and we're going to have.
You also know me, so we'll be able to get you in. We'll be
that
right.
Bourbon green room we're supposed to be in just got upgraded.
Actually, we're going to have some cool stuff in the Bourbon green room.
I got upgraded. We're going to have some Bourbon Pursuit live tasting.
So, like, all the celebrity chefs will be back there and all that, and I get this.
You should have told me that. I'm gonna stalk Tom Colicchio the entire time.
Tom's a cool guy. You'd like Tom. He's
I'm a big fan of Tom. You don't have to. Hey,
I love Tom.
Top chef for
Hey, listen, please do not follow these people into the trailers. With Padma. all I'm asking is that you all do not follow artists in their trailers. That's all I'm asking. I mean,
bites. I can't make any promises.
My reputation's on the line, guys. Please don't do that.
You all did get the message though of being moderators. We all have to rent tuxes, so make sure you get your tux rent on.
Actually, there's only one requirement: you have to wear an ascot.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to make the bolo.
2 more tickets for sale.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring back the bolo tie.
Oh, Blake. Are you serious? Are you doing the bolo tie?
I feel like we got to change it up a little bit.
I'm doing boots. That's all I know.
Represent Texas, y'all.
That's all right.
All right. Let's go ahead.
We're off track.
Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll wrap it up with that. So I want to say, fellas, thank you all for joining tonight. Carrie had to jump off early. This was a great conversation that we had. We peaked at almost around 70 viewers we had on at one point. So thank you, everybody, for joining in, being a part of this, watching it live. It's always fun to get a lot of your conversation that's happening in the chat. And we can take those conversations and turn them into good, lively banter that we have here on the Community Roundtable. And also don't forget to go and be a part of Bourbon and Beyond. Get your tickets at bourbonandbeyond.com, or you can enter to win free tickets at Bourbon Pursuit's Facebook page, Bourbon Pursuit Patreon as well over at Breaking Bourbon. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to the guys to let them kind of do their outros. So Blake, you go first.
Yes, I'm Blake from Bourboner.com. Thanks for having me. Always fun. I am the Cal Ripken of the Bourbon Community Roundtable. I've never missed a single episode, so keeping that streak going.
You say that every time.
I get it every time. And it's true every single time. So you can check me out, Bourboner.com, and also now at sealbox.com. So that's SEELBACHS.com.
Brian, go ahead.
All right. Thanks again. I love it. I've missed a couple. I can't keep up with Blake, but that's all right.
You got a pretty good batting
average. Find me mostly on Twitter. Twitter and my blog, Sippin' Corn. Find out about legal history of bourbon and current legal issues involving bourbon. Thanks, guys.
And Jordan.
Sure. One of the 3 guys from Breaking Bourbon. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon at breakingbourbon.com. Make sure to sign up to our newsletter too. And as Kenny stated, make sure you check out their Facebook and Patreon page and our Facebook and Instagram page and a way to win tickets to the Bourbon and Beyond Music Festival. We're really looking forward to drinking with hopefully you all who are watching, and most especially drinking with everyone who's been on this video chat tonight. So it's been fun. Looking forward to meeting you all in person again.
Absolutely. And while we're still on that modern unicorn talk, Confucius Max said the old medley solar eclipse. And we don't talk about solar eclipse on the roundtable. We know that leads to bad things. So, but Fred and Ryan, go ahead and close us out, guys. We still have to get our our flow down about how we're going to close out shows now when all three of us are on.
Who you go first? No. Thanks everyone again for joining us. I know it takes time to do this and put it on. This is one of our funnest shows. I really enjoy this, and I'm loving this Old Fitz. This is the really good stuff. But looking forward to Bourbon Beyond. It's going to be so much fun. We had a great time doing the bourbon pick, so I'm excited for moderating this. I'm freaking out that I have to moderate. But anyways, if you want to support us, please do on Patreon. And then if you want to give us some show suggestions, comments, feedback, we love hearing from our listeners. They give us the best ideas for show. And Fred, here you go.
Ryan, you'll do great at Bourbon and Beyond. I know you will. So
I know.
I'm the new 1/3 of Bourbon Pursuit. I'm launching a magazine. It's called Bourbon Plus. Go check it out at bourbonplus.com. It's my publishing partner is Covey Rise, and it's one of the most brilliant magazines in the space right now. And I think that when you see what I'm trying to do of telling the personality and everything of bourbon, it will grab you by the heartstrings. And I'm the bourbon curator of Bourbon and Beyond. So all those festivals, everything, that's what I've been doing for about a year, is building up the programming, helping the bourbons, and a little bit with the musicians, but mostly the bourbons. But so please come on out to Bourbon and Beyond. Check out the giveaways at breakingbourbon.com and bourbonpursuit.com.
Awesome. With that, we'll see everybody next week.